That is because of...
They're done.
That's capitalism, though, huh?
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's deeper than that. It's the same problem. Well,
It might be deeper than it, but in its current form, it is capitalism. Because I would agree that what is capitalism a manifestation of? Greed. You could say.
It's the same thing, but the same thing has happened all over the world. Like, urbanization is taking place at a tremendously rapid rate. It doesn't matter what the culture is or the form of government.
So you think that the politics is happening at a lower level? The phenomenology that's that's significant is a bigger tide, and within it, political systems are just flowing about. But that doesn't mean we should dismantle the ones we have in search of fairer, more just, better ones.
Hey everyone, so Jordan Peterson recently sat down with Russell Brand and had a discussion revolving in part around capitalism. Just search for Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand and it will come up. The full video is over an hour, so obviously I won't cover even 5% of it, but I want to focus mainly on what you just heard Russell Brand say, that capitalism is a manifestation of greed. This is quite off the mark, actually. Greed is less of a function of capitalism and much more so a function of human beings. It is a part of the human condition to have some greed. It is inherent in human beings. But here's the thing, no matter which economic or political system you live under, the amount of greedy people will be the same. There are just as many greedy people under a Marxist regime than there are under a classical liberal or libertarian society, for example. The only real difference is that if you live in a more free market system, the opportunities you have at your disposal to make your own life more abundant are far more numerous. Someone who does not have a nice car, a nice house, or high-quality food every day under Marxism are not without the desire for those things. They just have absolutely no means of acquiring those things, unless they happen to be politically connected. And by the way, I'm talking about how Marxism pans out in the real world. I am well aware that in the textbook fantasy world of Marxism there would be no state and therefore no politically connected people, but that never seems to happen. So Russell Brand continues on, as you heard, talking about fairness. He also mentions a magic word throughout this entire exchange. That word, of course, is equality. So Russell Brand is all about a more equal and fair society. And I would agree with him in this sentiment. There are people in the U.S. particularly that have wealth that they never should have received. These are the people who are politically well connected. These are the people that operate entirely outside of the asphyxiated free market system that we have in the US. Jordan Peterson talks later in this video about the observation that the more successful you are, the more opportunities become available to you. This is true. The more prominent you become, the more of a beacon you are to people who want to benefit from and off of you, and this can help you as well. The connection that sadly Jordan Peterson never brings up and Russell Brand has never understood is that a large amount, not all, but a large amount of inequality in the U.S. stems from the government granting favors to people, whether it's subsidies, tax breaks, tax incentives, tariffs on certain goods that benefit one particular industry while other industries receive no such special treatment, or monetary expansion from the Fed that the politically well-connected get to utilize first before the effects of inflation sets in, or perhaps the purchasing of toxic assets by the Fed at a higher value, which is translated directly into bigger, more connected businesses being shielded by their own poor decisions by the government. It is amazing to me that Russell Brand can talk at length about inequality and never even bring these things up. All he has to offer are empty platitudes about Marxism. In his mind, there are just some business owners acting entirely on their own in a pure free market system with their cigars and cognac, and they somehow drive the common man into the dirt by... how? I am not sure. Offering them products and services for prices they're willing to pay? I'd have to hear it from Russell Brand on how this happens, because he just claims the current inequality we face is a result of capitalism, but never spells out how. Now, if he would be more clear and say that it's a result of state capitalism, and that we need to do away with our current government as it stands now, then Russell Brand would be onto something. But in a weird twist, he has said things like this before. But then he immediately advocates for forced equality, which would not only be highly destructive, but also only possible by pointing government guns at people. But I'm fairly certain, given his lack of criticisms on government intervention and his referencing to Marxism, that he is blaming free market capitalism, despite him not knowing what free market capitalism even is, which is astounding in its level of ignorance. So look, the gross inequality in the US is much more of a function of our dismal political system rather than the freer parts of our economy. But inequality in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's a totally natural thing that we all benefit from. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com, is superior to me. I am not his equal. I am self-aware enough to know this. And nor do I deserve to live an equal life to him. He has a work ethic that is far beyond your average human being. He has intellect and intuition that is far more abundant than what most people have. Now, am I better or worse off because he has done what he has done? Well, our entire society is clearly far better off for having Amazon around than it would be if it wasn't. Any money Jeff Bezos earned off Amazon.com is well deserved. But if he earned a bunch of money by sending lobbyists to Washington to help pass laws that screws over his competition and benefits himself, I would say that that type of inequality is a problem. But it's of utmost importance to understand how that type of inequality is not a function of the free market. And Russell Brand would sound far more coherent and competent if he understood this. Thanks, and that's all.